Well, thank you very much, Reza, and good morning to everyone, and hope everyone's having a lovely Thursday. He's right. My name's Chris Gillen. I'm the CEO of Toll Support Solutions. We have offices here in Victoria and Vancouver, where I happen to be right now, on here at the beautiful traditional territories of the Tsawwassen people. And I'd love to take you through what we've discovered about Windows 11. So just quickly going through, that's who I am. For those of you who don't know me. And obviously for Toll Support, if you have any comments, questions, quibbles, queries about anything related to IT, we'd love to be your people and we'd love to help you out. So please feel free to give us a call, give us a write, and we're there to assist. All right. So today we're talking about Windows 11. Now, as part of our role as IT professionals, we have been active and involved in the testing of Windows 11 prior to its release and then its review of it after it's come out. And this is done to prepare ourselves to better support Windows 11 as it starts to inevitably deploy throughout all of the clients that we serve, but more as well, to give us the information to pass on to you about whether or not Windows 11 is one of these must upgrade things. And so the first question I really want to answer is Windows 11 something that your organization should be looking to actively deploy wherever possible, whenever possible, as soon as possible? And the answer to that question is no. All right, thank you everyone for coming. Have a wonderful day. Now, we'll talk a little bit longer on it, but at the end of the day, right now, in April of 2022, and it is something we are going to be reviewing, it is our professional opinion that Windows 10 continues to provide adequate support and adequate protection, and the feature set, much of the feature set that we're going to be talking about, is not compelling enough for most clients to make people want to switch over wholesale. It's certainly something, and as we'll demonstrate, that we think can be incrementally deployed. It's certainly something that if you have it on your computer because you bought it recently and it comes with Windows 11, that's fine. Its backwards compatibility has been quite good. So we haven't run into a lot of compatibility issues. We have run into some, but at the end of the day, no, we don't think you need to upgrade yet. At least not yet. And so a lot of what I'll be talking about is not so much what Windows 11 is today, but the roadmap of where Windows 11 goes, which is why I'm going to encourage anyone who's looking at decision making that this is a decision that we're going to have to circle back to in about 6 months to a year again and talk about it again. Okay. So let's talk about Windows 11 just as a product. Obviously, it is the next iteration of Windows. That's a replacement for Windows 10. Windows 11 is the current actively being developed version, though development work is still happening on Windows 10 concurrently. As a product, it is definitely much more evolutionary, not revolutionary. Lots of the earlier versions of Windows, we saw big changes between versions, certainly coming from, going way back to Windows 95, 98 era, coming into the Windows XP era, was a pretty radical change on the architecture and infrastructure. We saw similar things around Windows 7 and 8. Windows 10 was more incremental, and I would say the leap from 10 to 11 is even a smaller increment than we saw between 7 and 10. And one of the reasons for that is that Windows 10 has been actively developed and replaced incrementally. And actually, interestingly, if you were able to download the first version of Windows 10 and compared it to the current version of Windows 10, they would look like very different products. It's just that all these upgrades have happened so incrementally over time, most people haven't noticed how much the product has actually changed. So when you're comparing to Windows 11 to the most current version of Windows 10, you're going to see a lot of similarities. Some of the key differences, though, can create some frustrations, and I should mention it. So the first one is the UI largely follows the same themes, the user interface, meaning that, you know, there's a windows and there's boxes and there's buttons to click on and there's a start menu, all the things that we typically expect. What they have done, and you can actually see it in the picture down here, I'll just move my mouse if you guys can see that, is they've moved the start menu button more to the center. It's kind of offset slightly to the left as opposed to being in the far left corner of the screen. The first question that we get, which is the question I'll answer at this point, is we can set it back. So if you do get a Windows 11 machine and your muscle memory is such that you're constantly clicking in the wrong spot because the start screen or the start menu is in the wrong spot now, we can set it back to the left-hand side of the screen. So that's not a problem. The logic for why they've moved it is basically to minimize travel distance. You basically have two sets of buttons that most people typically use. One is the start button down the bottom left-hand corner, and then minimize, maximize, close up in the top right-hand corner. That is the furthest distance that those 2 points can be, which means that the mouse travel time is the largest travel time. So part of the theory of moving it more centered, as well as to make it more intuitive for people who come from more of a mobile background where they're used to sort of a big center button as their common button to get to the home screen. The second part of it is to reduce that travel time of the mouse. Does that work? We'll see. But that's certainly the theory. Second thing that they really talk about is snap layout. We'll demonstrate that in short order. A couple other things that I'll mention is the Microsoft Teams. It used to be that Windows 10 came with Skype built in for home communication, was never particularly widely adopted. They've created a personal home version of Teams, which is separate from the business version of Teams, which most of our clients use, which creates its own level of confusion, but that's a whole other story. But this personal version of Teams is designed as a replacement for Skype. Will it be adopted? We'll see on that. But certainly it's better than having Skype there for most use cases. One of the things that they definitely added, which I think is a great feature, is the virtual desktops. And then we'll finish off today talking about the Android integration, which for me is really the piece of the puzzle that Windows is missing, and more than anything might define the roadmap for the product going forward. Okay, so the new start menu is quite minimalist by current standards. Basically, it separates into four discrete sections. Section at the top is the search bar. It works exactly like a search bar. I assume everyone knows how to work that. Second one is pinned applications. These are previously set as they come out of the box with default applications, but you can manually unpin and pin whatever applications you want there. But it's key to note that that is entirely manual. There's no part of that where it automatically updates based on frequently used apps or anything like that. It is always just a collection of the default apps or the apps that you have manually explicitly added to the start menu. And then the bottom section, bottom half of the section there is basically a tie into your feed from Office 365 or your recent documents local on your computer. So it will tie into both of those pieces of information. So that will change dynamically based on usage. And then last piece is your login for user account, the reboot button, settings button. And then interestingly, the little download button in the corner, which actually opens your downloads folder. This can be slightly customized and add other custom folders onto it, which may increase its usefulness. But as a entity, the new start menu is much more pared down than the old Windows 10 or Windows 7 start menus. All right, Snap layout. This is actually a fun little feature. So if you have Windows 11 and you hover your mouse on that middle button, which is typically the maximize button, it now gives you a series of little windows. And those windows allow you to organize your screen. For example, if you look at the one that's in the top left, you'll see that there are two rectangles beside each other. That's designed to create a split screen where half your screen is one subject and the other half is, or one application, the other half is another application. And you simply hover over, then you click on the left or right rectangle, and then it will automatically resize the window and put in that position. Do the same thing with a second application, and you can put it on the right-hand side. And as you can see, they have common layouts for those. This was functionality that was in older versions, but was kind of buried away. You had to know keyboard commands to do it. Now they've made it so that this snap layout is something that you can do just simply by hovering your mouse over and using it. It's kind of fun. All right. So here are some of the changes that we've heard from both from our internal testing and external feedback that people have noted to us both in the positive and negative. First and foremost, on the most current version of Windows 11, that bottom left-hand corner, instead of being by default, instead of being that start menu button, is now a widget which opens up basically a preview, very much like if you look at your home screen on the Edge web browser or your home screen for Office 365. There'll be a collection of apps that tie into 365, so calendar, contact, weather, you can add traffic apps and other little widgets there. This is, again, a type of technology that Microsoft has played around with a lot over basically every iteration of Windows since Windows 95. They've had some version of this, and this is their latest attempt at it. Again, because most people are so used to clicking in the bottom left-hand corner for the start menu, where we hear from frustration is they're constantly opening up the wrong thing and wanting to either get rid of it or change it. Second thing that they've done is if you right-click on the desktop in Windows 11, as opposed to giving you the standard cut, copy, paste, they've been replaced with small icons, which in my personal opinion, the icons aren't as intuitive as they necessarily could be. So it can take a little while to understand what the cut, copy, and paste functions are, as well as the other ones in this more icon, more using iconography as opposed to words. There's lots of reasons on the back end while they're doing it. It makes it easier for language translation. If you're not trying to translate many words, you can just use the same common icons. But in the here and now for myself and for many people, cut, we understood what cut meant. The icon that they've chosen, that might not be as intuitive. There is an option to open up the full menu, but again, it's a second step. So again, that's one of the areas we're hearing back on frustration from early adopters on it. Something that is straight up great is the new share button on Teams. And what that means is that if you want to share an application that you're running, you just hover over it, and then a share button pops up when you're on a Teams call or in a Teams meeting. And then you can instantly share that application, that document with the group that you're on it, as opposed to kind of the more Zoomy way of going up and clicking share and then picking the desktop and so on and so forth. This cuts out a lot of steps, and I think is a much better solution. Their voice typing has gotten way better. You can just open it now with a quick keyboard command and just have it start auto typing it out. It again is using all the back-end processing power on the Microsoft servers to get a more accurate read on that. It can do things like punctuation fairly intuitively. And compared to the earlier offerings from Microsoft, this is definitely light years ahead. And then last but not least, most devices, Android, iOS, and now Windows, have started to implement this idea of focus sessions, and they are exactly what they sound like, that you can tell your computer for a period of time or while doing certain activities, don't bother me. Don't bing with an email. Don't tell me that there's an update and I need to restart. Don't tell me those things during the focus session. Focus session is about focusing. So again, you can just search for that. If you have Windows 11, you hit the start button, type focus, and it will take you right to the focus sessions from there, which of course is buried in the settings. All right. So let me talk about one of the things that from our end is really important, and we think it has high value within Windows 11, but has been also concurrently a thing that has significantly hindered adoption and rollout of Windows 11. And it will mean that if somebody comes to me and says, can we upgrade all of our computers from Windows 10 to Windows 11? The answer may be no, or the answer may be we can, but you're now going to have to purchase additional hardware to make it compatible, which is never fun. And that's the Trusted Platform Module 2.0. Now, this isn't a talk about cybersecurity, but anyone who has listened to my previous talks, anyone who has listened to the news, anyone who follows tech stuff at all, knows that cybersecurity is becoming a greater and greater issue. The tempo of attacks are up, the sophistication of those attacks are up, the amount of money that they take people and the harm that they cause is up. You only have to be flying on Sunwing today to know the type of damage that that hackers can wreak on your business. And Microsoft has made the conscious choice to say, right, for Windows 11, we're not going to accommodate weaker security anymore. We're going to require that, and we're going to require it at the hardware level. So this isn't a piece of software we can install or something like this. Is the device physically has to be able to do it. And how it does it is something called the TPM 2.0, or the Trusted Platform Module. Now, what that module does is it allows us to store, essentially in hardware, firmware level, key encryption data, key security data that is hard-coded to that individual or that machine. That can be biometric data, it can be encryption keys for logging in. It can be things like if we've encrypted the hard drive, which is recommended, what is called the BitLocker keys. Those keys are stored separate in a physical device, on a physical chip, separate on the motherboard, or as an add-on module, which we can physically buy and slot in, that holds that encrypted information and then holds it in a way that itself is encrypted and secure. So if somebody hacks in, they can't just steal the chip and read it. And that TPM 2.0 is a line in the sand for Windows 11. If you don't have it, you simply cannot install it without doing some weird hacky stuff, which inevitably breaks every time they do an upgrade to it. So it's TPM 2.0 or bust. Good news is, if you've got a computer in the last 3 to 5 years, the odds of it having TPM 2.0 are quite high. And when it does have that, it makes that computer much more secure. So this is why, in our opinion, at this point in time, the best way to upgrade to Windows 11 is incrementally. As old computers are cycling out, you make sure the new ones, even if they're installed on Windows 10, have TPM 2.0, which will increase the security under 10 to comparable levels with Windows 11, but also makes them Windows 11 ready. So while I don't see a specific use case for Windows 11 for most of our clients, I do see a specific use case for TPM 2.0. And that is definitely a feature within Windows. If you get Windows 11, you're getting TPM 2.0. The other thing that Windows 11 does quite well is it really is starting to move into the world of cloud first. For some people, again, this can be a frustration, and we appreciate that. You now simply, with a home account, cannot start the computer up with a local account. With Pro, we still can, but with Home, you need a Microsoft account or you need an Office 365 account simply to turn it on. And that's carried through the entire DNA of the product. As I mentioned in the start menu, those recommended feed of documents is pulled from your cloud services. Those widgets on the left-hand side are pulled from those cloud environments. If you use Edge, which is Microsoft's Chrome competitor, as a web browser, that homepage, if you log into it, and which it will do automatically, it is all logged in with your Microsoft or your Office 365 account. And the other thing it gives us is it actually gives us the ability to reinstall over the internet. So we used to need a CD. Well, we used to need floppies, but that's just because I'm old. We used to need floppies, then we needed CDs and then DVDs. Then we could do it off of a thumb drive or a USB stick. And now we can just take a computer that is basically non-functional and install Windows 11 by downloading it remotely, even if the computer basically can't do anything else. So that gives us a lot more tools to help troubleshoot and support clients, which is great from our end. And I think the benefits definitely are real for businesses in those cases. And then the last thing that I really want to talk about when it comes to Windows 11 is not what it is today, but where it's going. And it is one of these things that are changes, very quiet changes that potentially will have very profound impacts. And these are the impacts that I really use leaders in your organizations, leaders in business have to be aware of. And that is that Windows 11 is becoming Android ready. What does that mean? It means that shortly you should be able to install Android applications on Windows 11. Where this will lead is it will mean developers will very likely be looking at an Android first development platform, meaning they'll make the product for Android, knowing that it can be deployed not only on all Android devices and basically all Google devices, but also on all Windows 11 devices, which gives them a massive potential market, which means the likelihood that certain manufacturers, certain developers will simply get out of the business of making Windows applications is very high because they can just release the Android, support that single version, and that single version can be installed on the vast majority of devices, both mobile and desktop and laptop that exist in the world. And that change in philosophy at Microsoft, that change in design, that change in how they're structuring their operating system gives us as the end user and as IT professionals the capacity to do things we couldn't do before, like install Android apps on a computer. But strategically, I think we're going to see a position in a couple years' time where the line in the sand of why do you get Windows 11? It's because whatever application you're using has decided that the next version of it or the version you want to get only has an Android version. And the only way we can install that in your environment is to upgrade everybody to Windows 11. So don't be surprised if that decision-making happens. Where are we at right now? It is in a very experimental stage. They have a very, very limited Android application store that is available, that has a small amount of applications on it that are Android applications to basically use as a proof of concept. So we're still a ways away from wide release and broad adoption, but it's coming. But if you do join on to the Insider program and set your computer up to meet all of the criteria and you install the Android App Store, what you'll be greeted with is the fact that it's not available in our country. So as of today, while these experiments are going on, it is still largely experimental. Um, and we're looking at 6 months really realistically before we might see it in Canada at this very beta stage, and probably closer to a year to 2 years before we even are seeing it in wide adoption, and probably a year or two after that before we're faced with lines in the sand where we're going, we either buy Windows 11 or we don't buy this product because our only option to use it is Android because of that. Having said that, as we've all lived through COVID, 3 years can go pretty quick. So it is something that even today, I would encourage you to be thinking about from a budgetary standpoint of looking towards adoption of a broad adoption within your organization within the next 5 years. I think that's realistic and appropriate. And I think if you try and there's not a pressing need to do a lot faster than that I can see at this point. But certainly there will be a point probably in about 5 years time where if you haven't upgraded, we're going to be much more limited in our options for support because that's inevitably how these things play out. All right. Well, here at Toll Support, we're absolutely happy to support you on Windows 11. We're more than happy to support you on Windows 10. For those who do want to go with Windows 11, please let us know. We'll be happy to get you upgraded. And certainly for those who are concerned about its impact onto your environment, our testing has demonstrated that with the vast majority, but not 100%, with the vast majority of hardware and software, we've seen little to no issues. But we of course need to do these things on a case-by-case basis. And I'm just going to have a check here. If there's any questions, comments, quibbles, or queries, now would be a great time if you want to throw it in Q&A or chat.